considered yourself disfigured and that you're scaring your son because you have a mark on your face. That is out of control. And what are you saying to anybody else who's dealing with anything on their face that they can't cover up? So we're going to scare kids because we have something on our face that we can't cover up. I think Hollywood needs to be sensitive, and they need to think about what they say before they say it.
Now,
and come at me if you want to, Hollywood.
Okay. Oh, okay. Let's put feisty back in the cup. Okay. Now, men do get it. Nick Cannon has it, and it says that men get it, and often they get it more severely than females do. It says men do get lupus. They tend to have more severe symptoms than women do. Says Janet Lewis, MD. She's the chief rheumatology at the University of Virginia Medicine. They're often more likely to experience some of the more serious manifestations of lupus, such as renal disease, neurological disease, and psoriasis, which is inflammation of the linings of the organs of the heart and lungs, she explained. And it isn't clear why. Men are also more likely to get drug-induced lupus, a kind of lupus caused by an overreaction to a certain medication, as the medications associated with this form of disease are more commonly given to men. So there are men, and there is a picture of it, and then it goes back into telling about African Americans. The thing that concerns me is that because it's a disease that hits the African Americans, Latinos, Latin, Native, Indian, and Asians, and we are all considered as a minority race, that the research to cure this incurable thing is not going to exactly be there for us. You know what I mean? Because we are considered as a minority. So we're not put on the top of the plate like breast cancer and psoriasis and RA, most diseases that most white people are more immune to getting. That research is there for, and because we're not there, we're often put on the back burner. So it is a struggle.
A lot of my treatment I spent about 3 years basically living in a hospital, would only be home for about 2 weeks, and I would have a home nurse. Was the same treatment because they didn't know how to cure lupus, was sickle cell. A lot of the time the nurses would mistake me for one of another woman who was in the hospital who had sickle cell, very severe sickle cell, and our treatments would be the same. And a lot of the treatments, that's why you hear people with lupus say that through chemical treatment, because a lot of the treatments they have to do are some of the medication that they use for cancer patients. So you'll have to go through like chemo or like high doses or steroids, or I've had blood transfusions from having lupus. It's just they don't know what to do. So they're trying their best. I think with more people coming out and having the effect of it, because when you have lupus, they'll add more things to it. Like if I wanted to, and I wanted to listen to my doctor, if I go in and I tell him I'm in pain, he will say, after a couple of times, he'll say, okay, you're developing arthritis or fibromyalgia. I don't know how to pronounce it right. Fibromyalgia. I don't know what it is either. But that other thing was chronic pain, and it could just be that like I'm swelled up. Because they're still trying to figure it out, they might add more things to the lupus symptom.
And but because it's such a mystery, it hasn't been much research in it as it has most other diseases. And like I said, to me that goes back to who it affects. It affects African Americans and minorities, Latino, Mexicana, Spanish, Native American, and all this. And we're just not at the top of the choice list when it comes to research, and that's just the way it is.
Well, when I worked in a NIH, there's a lot of minorities that are from Africa, India, doctors who come here, and they do studies, but it has to like be like it was like the whole AIDS thing when I was at NIH for those years, and malaria. It was just that stuff going on. So I don't know. I think NIH does have a lot of research on there, and I've noticed too when I go to the doctors and moving around so much being military and going to different doctors that I will run into a minority doctor who had a family member who had lupus and passed from it. And those are the not the best stories you want to hear when you're young and you don't want to hear someone pass from this disease that just took over their life because they gave up. And that's the biggest thing about lupus because no one knows. But what I'm finding out is that it comes from the gut. Lupus is all in the gut. So I haven't taken any medication. I wouldn't say any advise it to anyone else. But I have not been in a hospital in over a year. My mom could vouch for that. And I completely stopped taking all medication, which I won't say is the best thing. But I'll have little flare-ups. I'll go to the doctors, and if need be, he'll give me a steroid shot. But it's in your gut, and eating more natural food and stuff, I believe can help. I know there's a lot of things online and a lot of people I've met who have beat lupus. So I just think there needs to be more research and more people talking about it.
Yes, definitely. I think there's a lupus march. There's more that's coming out with more awareness, but a lot of people are not, especially minorities, don't realize that it is affecting minorities.
A lot.
Yeah. So I have a small story that I'm going to try and read most of it, called Unrecognizable Signs, My Struggle with Discoid Lupus. This story was written by Janissa Page. It says, freshman year of college was a difficult time for me. Many things had changed. I was away from home for the first time. I was not among close friends, and my course load was semi-difficult for me to adjust to. With all that going on, there was a noticeable change in my appearance that I couldn't identify with. There was a round reddish rash, raised sore on my left cheek. I tried to recall in my mind if I had done something to myself to cause this, but nothing came to mind. Combing my hair in the mirror also became unnerving because it had begun to fall out more than average, 100 strands a day. My scalp was visible. I figured out where the hair was disappearing from. I was balding on a section of my scalp. I knew I had been stressing from school, from being homesick, but I couldn't figure out why my skin and scalp were being affected by my stress. That's when I realized, when I really began to panic. My mother suggested I come home to see my grandmother, who was a registered nurse, could take a look and see what was happening. I was on the next thing, smoking, going home. As my grandmother examined my face and scalp, she was clueless about my condition. She concluded that I needed to see a dermatologist. A couple of days later, I was in the doctor's office being poked and prodded as if I were a science project. The diagnosis, Discoid Lupus. It was determined that I didn't have systemic lupus. There were traits, but I definitely had discoid. I didn't understand what discoid lupus was. So my reaction was nothing more than a head nod and a wondering, now what? My dermatologist did not have a sense of urgency or true concern in his voice. So I made myself believe that this wasn't serious. I would be just fine. The information that I gained from the appointment was there was no certain cause for the disease. The disease is more prevalent in African American women than Caucasians. It can affect my face and scalp. I was handed some cream for my face and told my hair would grow back. This was the end of the appointment. I never saw that dermatologist again and put the thought of lupus out of my mind. Almost 20 years passed. My life was moving along, planning a wedding, planning a brought on demanding pressures that I had not anticipated. Day by day, my face began to show signs of redness and hair was falling out. I believed that I was having an acne breakout and needed to wash my hair because it was falling out. I had no thought to the symptoms of discoid lupus, so in my mind, that was not a possibility. Dismissing all the signs, I went on my wedding and honeymoon, which happened without a hitch. Coming back to reality, I decided it was time to see a dermatologist. What I feared became true. My discoid lupus had waken up from its 20-year nap. This time it came with a vengeance. Instead of a lesion, I had several on my face and ears, and my scalp was bald in more than one area. Depression began to set in because I couldn't understand why it came back 10 times worse than before. If I could identify two things I overlooked during both my episodes, that would be my high stress level and the symptoms I was experiencing at that time. Looking back, I was under some unbelievable stress both times, and I dismissed the rashes and the hair falling out just as a natural aspect of life. I have discoid lupus, which, whether active or dormant, is in my life. I must pay attention to those little things, stress, fatigue, rashes, hair falling out, etc., in order to gain control of this outbreak, which will limit the hair loss and skin abrasion. As an African-American female diagnosed with a form of lupus, I have pointed out some important factors that I feel everyone should remember. 1, I know my family history. If someone in your family has a form of lupus, being tested may be wise for you. 2, get informed. Ask a professional. 5 W's is a great way to learn as much as you can about lupus. The 5 W's are: who can get lupus? What is lupus? When does lupus flare up? Where on your body does lupus affect? Why is there not a cure for lupus? The more you know, the better prepared you are to your flare-ups. Pay attention to the symptoms you may have and various changes that may take place with your body. Be sure to take your medications, visit your physician. Don't be afraid to ask questions. If you have to be out in the sun, make sure you wear sunscreen or a hat or use an umbrella to keep yourself protected. Make sure your family is educated as well. You should not have to live with lupus by yourself. Try to make your life as stress-free as possible. Today, I'm happy to report that my discoid lupus is under control. It hasn't taken a nap, but it's not wide awake either. I see my rheumatologist and dermatologist regularly, and I am sure to take my medication and stay out of the sun. Although my face has cleared up and my hair is growing back slowly and finely, I still have the caution. But I feel blessed that I have my life as an educator. I have taken the topic of lupus as if it were a thesis paper for me. Research is the main focus to gain greater understanding. A great place to obtain information about lupus in various forms is the Lupus Foundation of America. And that was her story, Genesis Page. I think that was a really, really good story. Mm-hmm. And let's go back to some music. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about when people think that you have AIDS. You're going to tell us about the time where someone thought she had AIDS. And I'm going to tell you about the difference between lupus and AIDS and whether marijuana is the best cure. Here we go. This is started from the bottom. Pierre, and we'll be back.
Shout out to Javier Roman on the hook. Started from a sinner, now I'm saved. Jesus gave his life and he rose from the grave. I started from a sinner, now I'm saved. Jesus gave his life and he rose from the grave. I started from a sinner, now I'm saved. Jesus gave his life and he rose from the grave. I started from a sinner, now I'm saved. Jesus gave his life and he rose from the grave. Team Jesus and I sported like a letterman. Lord on my side, now I'm better than I ever been. He came for the sick, he's my medicine. He's my healer, my doctor, my therapist. He came to pardon sin with his excellence. Our crimes made punishment.